I would just say that it's been a difficult week, the standpoint of progress, starting last Monday with the tax bill and going through the week health bill and so on and so forth. But I remain optimistic, and I would simply urge that Senator Poggemiller and certainly the Speaker, as I believe they have, but I would suggest that they need to continue to try to work with certainly the minority and the governor to come to a resolution of this session. We have but a couple of days left. The work before us is important to the state of Minnesota, to the citizens of Minnesota, and it's just absolutely imperative that we move forward and reach a conclusion. Now, we understand it's not going to be easy. It's going to have to be done with budget reductions. I think that we all know that. There are rumors, at least where I walk, that would suggest that maybe there's another tax increase on the way. I would hope that would not be the case. That would simply delay and maybe, frankly, nullify our ability to bring this conclusion or this session together in terms of a conclusion. But my hope and my sincere hope, my urging to the Speaker and Senator Poggemiller is that we get very, very, very serious, that we sit down, understand the task before us, and bring this session to a conclusion.
Two thoughts to add to that. Number one is we have plenty of time. We got basically 3 full days, and you will recall earlier this week that the DFL was able to conjure up, draft, put through committee, put through the floors, and get to the governor's desk in about 12 hours' time. A bad bill with bipartisan opposition, so there's plenty of time with 3 days left to put together some kind of a bipartisan compromise. So I'm not too worried about timing. I would say that one issue that appears to have been parked, if not totally overlooked in this last week, is education, is K-12. We still have not seen a K-12 budget bill or a K-12 policy bill on the Senate floor. The House finally took up a measure earlier this week, but it sure appears to me that the legislature has forgotten about K-12 and that the race to the top essentially is over. We've passed through at least 2 of Commissioner Segren's deadlines, so we now have about 400 school districts out there that are waiting for a budget, waiting for some certainty, and Senate Republicans are very disappointed that we haven't been able to talk about education reforms. We haven't been able to put together a budget for school districts to then use this summer to get ready for their the start of the next school year. So school boards are waiting, principals and teachers are waiting, and we really should not go through this weekend without taking up that very, very critical issue.
Frankly, if that can work, you know, we got to deal with the shifts, we got to deal with the unallotments, and we have to deal with this gap that was heretofore covered with the tax increase, and a little bit more. But if we can deal with those 3 things, I think we can make our way out of here. But that is tumultuous waters in the mind of some. So we'll see.
What's the target? Yeah, what's the target for the spending cuts? Do you have a hard number?
No, we haven't agreed on that yet. But I mean, frankly, the targets are, frankly, for us, looking at the governor's unallotments, and again, dealing with a shift, getting acceptance of the shift, and then we've got to fill this gap that heretofore was filled with a tax increase. And there's some more money there too, more miscellaneous in nature. But if you can solve those 3, I think we can make it home. If we simply don't use the shift, if we just simply don't take the shift and ratify it without the paybacks, I mean, there will be another group of people here next year. Maybe we'll be here, maybe we won't. But the reality is, I think that most school districts, understanding our situation, will understand that the payback on that is going to be very difficult. If it is to be paid back, it's going to have to be paid back, I would suggest, in a fairly long-term basis. So again, that's going to be part of our discussions this afternoon, and that may be one of the critical pivot points in terms of reaching an agreement. The governor's put forth some cut ideas, and there may be, frankly, the use of a contingency here using the federal money. from the standpoint of if we don't get that, then we go to these cuts, or maybe it's we have these cuts, but if we get the money, we don't have to implement them. Either way would probably work, but we are, or at least have talked a lot about a contingency approach to the federal money.
So what are you talking about for total dollar value of the cuts?
Well, I think it's around $2.9 billion. It's
Okay,
it's the unallotment plus
okay,
the
You want to cut everything?
it's the
other than
unallotments.
the
Yeah,
school delay.
it's the unallotments plus plus this year's what's left of this year's deficit. So it's a lot of money.
Well, that sounds like the end of 36 years of DFL majority then. There is so much frustration out there. One of the advantages that I have that my two colleagues here don't have is I get to go home most nights, and people are so tired of us going into special sessions. People are so mad about us not getting our work done on time. And getting work done on time means there's at least a K-12 bill that we need to pass. We need to get this budget in order, and again, there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time to get it done. I think there's some good work being done, some good ideas being offered. Our caucus from the beginning of last year, whether it was stamps with Senator Koch, whether it was reforming state government itself with Senator Olson, we've talked about a pay freeze, we've talked about pay cuts. We've put forward a lot of ideas that center on cuts and reform.
But you haven't voted.
Cuts and reform. Most of the governor's budget on the floor back in March, so that was 60 days ago. That still works. Now, since in the last 10 days, again, we haven't even been able to bring budget bills to the floor, other than this little game with the tax increase bill earlier this week. So maybe we've got a veto override. Maybe that's part of this weekend's plan. But I think we will continue to roll up our sleeves, offer good ideas, and I would be hard-pressed to agree that our work is done. It clearly is not done. If you look at the cash flow, people expect a balanced budget, and they expect it done on time.
We're going to need to ratify those unallotments. I think if we have any level of responsibility going on in terms of looking at next year, the next biennium, and those that follow us, I think it's frankly just the responsible thing to do. I know it's a difficult thing to do, but it's a responsible thing to do. And frankly, I would suggest the legislature coming back next year is going to have to probably deal with those anyway. And so, why not just do it now? Make the tough calls and put a budget plan together that can work.
Mayor, we're sent here to set priorities. Last year the Senate DFL's outline was a 7% cut to schools, a 7% K-12 cut. That was kind of their across-the-board regimen, and that's not setting priorities. That's not picking the programs and the institutions that are going to make people choose Minnesota. We got to do great at schools, and we got to do great at jobs. And you can't do that with across-the-board cuts. We're set here to make some choices, just like Minnesota families and Minnesota businesses have been forced to do big time in this recession, so we should do the same. I met with two school boards this week, and they don't know what to think. They don't know what to book. They don't know what to budget. They are literally, there's multiple scenarios up on their blackboards. And again, we should not leave here without giving certainty in the amount of dollars and flexibility when it comes to state policy and mandates, et cetera, for our public schools.
We have indicated that we may be able to pay back the shift through making some of the unallotments permanent, and that can work. If that's the direction that this legislature wants to go, that could probably work. But I think there's a reality, and that's the reality of 2012-13, and whatever we do, frankly, may not stick.